Dr. Xu is a managing partner at Amino Capital, and her focus area of investment into data-driven solutions of blockchain Web 3.0 prototypes. She sits on the board of directors of Yono and was interim CEO of Candyhouse. Since 2012, she is involved with more than 130 investments, including Assembly acquired by Cisco, Orbeus acquired by Amazon, Ozlo acquired by Facebook, Human Longevity, and many others. And she has also started to research next generation blockchain protocol since 2014 and involved in the seed and A round of Streamlabs, which incubated one of the most anticipated ICOs in 2018, Definity, and also participate in pre-sales and ICO of Definity, Oasis, Trust Token, New Cipher, and many others. So let's welcome Dr. Xu and let's welcome Ning Jiang for our Fireside chat. We are going to discuss about the latest tech topics, AutoML, and AI investment. So my first question is for Sue. Just introduce a bit about Amino Capital and what sort of companies you're looking at.
Okay, so Amino has been around for a little bit over 5 years, and we started with this new model. We have over 80 limited partners, and also they some sort of also contribute with deal flows. So basically, they all exactly said tech giants in the valley, and including some other tech giants funders or executives from Asia as well. And then I think we currently have over $250 million under management, and we are actually doing our third fund with committed $100 million venture fund plus $150 million committed crypto hedge fund. So simply because, as you can actually tell, it's basically our own money and some friends' money. So we actually have a strong drive to invest in the next generation of web, including AI and blockchain. So our investment theme has always been data, and because when you actually the year of 2012, when we first started, a lot of the fund, stage agnostic funds has been saying the internet is not efficient enough. So we want to invest more marketplace, Airbnb, that type of marketplace. But for us, we are scientists by training, and also we have product experiences at Google and Facebook and Airbnb. So we understand data is actually the real barrier rather than demand. For example, like a lot of so-called marketplace, consumer marketplace, of course, food delivery, of course there is demand. However, when you actually try to raise the next round of funding and you failed, you try to sell yourself to the tech giants. When they look at those engineers and also their products, they were saying, I have those data, and it's not unique. Facebook not just have the, which restaurant you like, and also Facebook knows your social graph, and they know how many family members you have. So your data is not actually very unique to us. So that's why when you get acquired, oftentimes it's just the acqui-hire, so it's not a lot of return for investors. So that's why, but back then in 2012, not a lot of people invested in people with beautiful training like you, and have very strong analytical skills, try to come up with something amazing. And then, so we decided to set up a fund, invest in data. So I can talk more about our business, but data is actually always the same. I think for many years to come.
Then in the speech, you mentioned a lot of positive impacts about AutoML. It is certainly an emerging technology and has a huge potential. But is there any technical challenge that AutoML is facing right now? And is there any potential negative impact or shortcoming in the nature of AutoML?
There are a lot of challenges. Some of them I mentioned in the talk. For example, today, if you look at the open source technologies or published research is application specific. It's where you translate the development of a specific model into a specific AutoML model, which is actually more difficult to do, require more expertise than developing the application-specific model. So that's today's number one problem, actually. And fundamentally, that's because in this space, the algorithm in general not mature enough to deal with very huge search space. Think about if you don't have any knowledge about the application, which is the case the AutoML technology faces when they look at the new piece of training data or new applications. I don't have any knowledge about it as the human engineers may have. The human, even for simple ones, for example, let's say a naive one. If I'm learning something about the users on a website, I know that what information I can get for user IDs, and if there's user's name, I probably know the name not going to bring any value. So all those common sense knowledge will reduce the search space for human engineers. But for AutoML technology, we have figured out automatically, and which is actually quite difficult because the trivial combination of features is actually very extremely huge, and you have to rule them all out. So that we were solving this by using what I call shared controller, so that we can accumulate knowledge across different applications, different data sets, from different users, so that once we train, let's say, for each application, for each data set user have uploaded, we build 20 to 30 models. Once we build those models, the feedback becomes accumulated knowledge that's going to be used to train or improve our controller. So that over time, controller becomes smarter and smarter because I've seen different data sets, different applications. It learns when I should use what kind of technology on what kind of data. So that's the key in our case. But it's still something we're working on right now on a daily basis to improve. It's very challenging. And the other one is the AutoML technology I talked so far only solved part the technical problem. The AI application is actually beyond the barrier for AI application is beyond the technical challenge. In a way, most businesses simply don't know what AI can do for them, what kind of applications they can build on top of the data that only they have. So they're limited by their imagination and their understanding about AI. How do we solve that problem is actually more challenging. That will limit where we can apply AI and how much value we can extract from your data.
And next question for you. For example, like the OneClick.ai has just raised the funding from the Innovation Ventures, and also there's a lot of AI companies from 2016 and 2017. We have witnessed an AI investment boom. So how about this year? What are the opportunities that you're really looking at in this year? And also you can feel free to share any insights in the blockchain industry as well.
Okay. That's a great question. Actually, for AI, what is AI? So to us, AI is always data. It has to be big data and also annotated data, and also plus analytical skills. Like if you just created data and then you're just making garbage, but you have to know how to actually, come up with an algorithm and to snowball your data and to make your product better. And third is actually domain integration. So you don't know how many times at the, Microsoft research and PhD, Stanford PhD, and they were telling us that, oh, so, I actually published a really top-notch paper at CVPR, and my training is really just, before we use like millions of data sets, but now I just use like thousands. So, but what is this like used for? So they really want us to introduce them to some sort of like expert in certain domain. Either, the most typical one are fintech and healthcare. Why these two? Because these two areas, software and social mobile hasn't eaten yet. So you don't actually come up with our Facebook and a Mac record here. So, and these two areas are highly regulated. So you have to have a really strong, usability and scenario for the doctors, for banks to adopt your technology. Oftentimes, AI has a chance. Same thing with blockchain. You can always say, what is blockchain? Blockchain is actually the blockchain technology. A lot of people, like smart people like you guys, probably takes 3 minutes work. And plus, data economics. So you have to incentivize everybody to contribute to your network voluntarily. And third one is actually the, domain as well. So that's the promise and also the future of Web 3.0. So these two technologies, either combined or individually, can actually be the next wave. So for this year, it's a very interesting question because in the year of so we invested in Orbeus way ahead of AI hype. So basically, when Orbeus started, they're just a facial recognition API, and they have millions of API calls every day. And then suddenly, there's this company, they actually came up with an app, right? A very fun app. So they use their API to actually rank the places in around certain location. The most interesting, the most fun places for men. So how did they rank that kind of places? It's just using facial recognition to actually see the laughing face of men in certain places and rank those places. So that company was acquired by Google just a couple months later. So they were like, the acquisition price is more than their valuation, they're using their API. So then they suddenly realized, I can't just do this. I wanted to come up with my own app. So they actually came up with an app, which is called Time, which is like 2 years earlier than Google Photos. And when Google Photo came out, that was like the most interesting project all the other tech giants are looking for. And it's really just sorting people's photo album using facial recognition. So then they were acquired in 2016, early 2016 by Amazon. And then it's a very successful acquisition. It's not just acqui-hire because Amazon AWS rebrand. Oh, you're from Seattle. You know them pretty well. So they rebrand facial recognition API to be the free product on AWS. So that's a very successful story. And then later, so how did the AI hype came? It's all because of Tesla. So in year of 2015, Tesla actually launched their car with this level 2, autonomous driving function, and then everybody freaked out. And then, GM buy Cruise for $1 billion, and then Zoox raised $200 million under $1 billion valuation. So that's the hype. And then when there was a hype, our company is already acquired. So that's for early stage investors. We not try to invest into a hype. We try to be ahead of curve. So this time, again, very interesting. When there was a hype, 2016, 2017, AI hype, really big. And then just a couple of people with no data, just analytic skills. For example, like just PhDs, so from Stanford, raised under $1 billion. For us, I think it's a little bit overvalued. Well, they just raised another. But there were so many of such companies. And then suddenly, in 2017, and then blockchain came. So in April 2017, we actually invested in a company called Ozlo. Their market cap, they're trying to do an ICO, and their market cap is only 30 million. Nobody was sure, is ICO really working? But we were very excited because we know their token economy really makes sense, and they already have scenarios in Southeast Asia equivalent to Alipay.
So we actually got into the pre-sale under market cap like 15 million. And then after a couple weeks, it went to market cap 1 billion. So that's the first ICO unicorn. And then what happened next? Not a lot of people investing in AI anymore. And then, suddenly AI become a very good, undervalued investment. Why? Because if you really want to start a company, the really good company, it's not because the founder was thinking, I start a company, there was a hype, how much money I can raise. It's really because somebody has a great idea, and then they actually have a product that everybody wants. So they have to, establish, incorporate to actually serve those customers, and they just need a little bit of money. So that's why people like you and some other companies, and the company we invested, they want to start a company because they just need a little bit of money. They don't care whether there's a hype or not. So same thing with blockchain. Right now it's very undervalued because blockchain at the very fast at the 2018, the Bitcoin price, just Bitcoin market just crashed. But when it crashed, it's not just like 1 month, 2 months. 3 years ago, like a couple of years ago, 2014 to 2016, it's been that low for 3 or 4 years. So nobody knows what's going to happen next. But why there is a company want to start a company in blockchain right now? Because same reason, because they really have this product that everybody wants. So that's why we are very heavily invested in early stage AI blockchain companies right now.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. My feeling about AutoMail is about the same thing. So AutoMail is at a very early stage in general. It's really emerging technology getting public actually from last year when Google made the announcements. Most people still don't know the technology, don't know the term yet. But the market heading for is different from what the AI hype is all about. The AI hype we have heard so far actually about hard applications that's targeting the consumers. So that's basically kind of one company build a technology, build a solution, and used by everyone else. That's the kind of consumer-facing technology. But AutoMail can unlock the potential of business applications across all the businesses. Today, because we are already building this platform, so we talk to many business industry customers. And surprisingly, we found for a company that generates hundreds of millions of dollars of revenues a year, or even bigger, don't even have an expert can tell them where they can use AI for. And particularly as an example, how much value this kind of automated AI technology can bring to those customers. Just look at the sales forecasting. Typically, before we jump in, their forecasting accuracy is about 70 to 80% accuracy. And if you are a manufacturer, you have to stock lots of products in your warehouse in order to meet demands which you don't know yet. And or you're simply going to lose your sales opportunities. But by using technology that we offer, in a day or two, they turn their accuracy to something above 90%. That means more than 10% of the warehouse saving, or they can increase their sales by more than 10% in a couple of days. So that's what technology can bring to those traditional businesses. And there's huge value in it. That, because the AI is so difficult to use today. So those values and this market doesn't exist. We need new technology to unlock it, new and better technologies. And that's the emerging technology.
Very interesting. Next question is for both of you. It's a very general question. Sue, how do you know it is a great company? And for Ning, what is an ideal investor for an AI startup, especially where you're doing such a a technical aspect of AI? Like what sort of investor is ideal? Who you want to start with?
Okay. From our perspective, as a co-founder of a technical company, so because we are working on emerging technology that haven't been, its potential hasn't been fully recognized by customers and investors and entire community. So what we need investors with the technology background essentially, so that they can tell the difference between what we do and the others. Because it's not a market, there's not too much hype about it yet. And it's not a market that everyone can recognize. You know, most investors don't talk to those our customers directly. They don't feel the pain of the customers. So they have to be able to, somehow determine what's going to be the bottleneck and whether it's a problem that was solving from their own experience, from their own expertise. And that's why basically they need some degree of expertise in, let's say, AI development or similar, or have seen similar projects before, understanding what's the bottleneck, what's the pain in the manual process of building AI models. The other thing is because it's emerging technology, so I do expect that the return going to take a little longer to reach its full potential. I believe that the long tail applications is huge, but the market adoption not going to happen in one day. So we need investors who are willing to invest at the early stage of the market before it becomes obvious to everyone else.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for us, as an investor, as early stage fund and new fund, this is our third fund. So we're very proud that this is not our first fund because I think it's very difficult to actually raise the third fund because your track record is there, and then you can't just come up with a story to attract investors. So we're very lucky that our new model really worked with tech funders, like what you mentioned. And then our partners not just understand the technology, but also a lot of them actually are researchers and scientists by training, but they also actually understand the products. How do you actually design a product? A lot of we have 3 full-time partners previously at Google, and then 2 of them joined Google in year of 2000, and then 1 joined in year of 2002, and they were really pioneers in Google. And then in Google, not every product came out very well, like the Google Doc, the Google Doctor, Google Health. So Google actually spent a lot of money, unlimited resources, and they tried so many products. But our partners' products, they have experienced really successful products. For example, Google Image Search was actually created. One of the authors, one of our founding partners, who is Dr. Chu, and then who joined Google in year 2000. And also Asian language search was actually created by one of our founding partners, Dr. Jun Wu, and also account security. And then our partner Max Ibo has been in charge of it for over 18 years until recently joined us full time. So basically, our founders have been there, have done that. So I think Andreessen Horowitz, they're on their blog, they really summarize very well for good VC. So basically, there is 5 C. One is cash at the bottom. So if you are a real investor, in Silicon Valley, there was always people that play investor. So if you're a real investor and then you have cash, everybody has cash. And then to some extent, you make so much money or you can raise so much money, you have contacts. So, for example, like companies that we invested in, we can put up, a list of investors, a list of potential customers for them. But what's different on top of that is connections. So what's the difference between contacts and connections? That oftentimes you go to, potential customers or potential investors. Your investor actually recommended to you or introduced to you, and you still feel like I still have to do my pitch. I still have a lot of questions. They don't seem like us or trust us. That's contacts. But if you actually come to see the clients or come to see an investor, and then you feel like you're very well welcomed, and a lot of homeowners, they know us very well, and then they really wanted to work with us. They're ready to sign, the PO. They're ready to write the check. That's connection, because they really truly respect your investor, and they have, they're better at some point. They can actually influence the connection, potential clients and potential investor. So that's connection on top of that. And then on top of connection is content. People like you actually invited a lot of investors to come to your show. So some of the investors, they're very articulate. They think a lot. They try to be influencer. They try to actually be thought leader. So that's very, very important, because for people like entrepreneurs, all investors want them to be influencers. And if you want your portfolio company to be influencers, you have to try to be an influencer. So that's why that's content very important. And then on top of that is what you mentioned, capability. So if this company, funded by, so remember what I talked about AI, a lot of people talk about AI, they said is big data plus analytical skills plus domain expertise. So you can come to start a company from anyway. And for you guys, you come with like analytical skills, which is great. But there are some other people, they have a lot of data, but they have great product. They have a lot of users, but they don't know how to analyze those data. And or there are people that they have really good, capability in certain traditional industry like automobile, fintech, but they don't know how to make a mobile app, and they don't know how to make robotics, and they don't know how to analyze data. So for those entrepreneurs, if they need, interim CEO, or if they need VP of sales, and then we have people ready, we can do that for them. So that's one of the best VC that you can get. So I think to us, if we really invested in people, we actually, because we feel very comfortable to write first check, and then we know, everybody we invested in, we know that, we trust that you have a very good background, and you're capable of doing certain things. And because oftentimes we can always find a reference, and we know that you're capable, but you have to be also to be coachable. So a lot of times I really recommend entrepreneurs to, raise funding is just a start. It's more like get engaged or even get married. So how do you actually be successful is how do you treat your investor. So you don't want it to be like, oh, I raised money, I left, never, bye-bye, I don't see you again. And then when you're in trouble, and then you're saying, my company have only like 3 months runway, can you give me more money? It's very difficult for your investor to make that kind of decision, at such short period of time. But people are some sort of like people. So human nature, we really like to be around, and then be around meaning that. So that's why we have more like a co-working space at the downtown Palo Alto, really close to Stanford. It's our office, but it's like too big. So we have our entrepreneurs to be residents there. Why? It's not because we just want to offer free spaces. It's actually not free. Because we really wanted to be together, especially in the early days when you just get started, and then you really wanted to grow that kind of business instinct. Because those business instincts becomes, muscle memory. When you have challenges, when you wanted to make a decision, with only 10% of the information that you have, and you have to make a decision, you have to make a deal. So those, instinct, you have to, be with somebody. It could be your dad, It could be your wife, your husband. It could also be your advisor, mentor, investors. So I would recommend, people to take advantage of the relationship and really calculate this relationship.
That's really interesting, the insights, in the investor and entrepreneur relationship. Next question for Ning. You're doing something that Google and Microsoft are doing as well. So that's a competition. They have a lot of computational resources. They have expertise. So how do you manage to stand out in the race of AutoML?
I think first thing is we approach to AutoML from a different angle. So as I mentioned earlier, everything else that we have seen so far are application specific, which is great, which is natural extension, because I want to build an image classification model. So now I want a better model, so I build algorithm to find a better image classification model. So that's a reasonable approach. But we started by thinking myself and my co-founder Yuan Shen have been building different applications in our career. So we see lots of commonality between them. So we want to abstract those things out so that we have a generic solution that build model for all different things, for all different applications. So we start from different angle, and we start actually earlier. So our original engine was developed, has finished the development early last year, like on January, February, around that time. Because it's not a standalone product, so we wasn't launching that product. But we used that and built some supporting components to get the funding. So that's one thing. So we started earlier, essentially, and so we think we are solving the right problem. But fundamentally, the technology we are building allow us to gain and learn domain knowledge because as I mentioned, it's a shared model between all different applications. The more applications we see, the more data sets we see, our platform becomes smarter and generating better model at the first shot. So that gives us a competitive advantage compared to any other people trying to clone the same technology. And so what we have, I personally believe what we have is going to give us about 2 years edge over any company who wants to build similar products. And in 2 years, we should have enough customers to allow our platform to be really smart. So anyone trying to catch up is going to be very difficult in 2 years. So that's from the market, from technology point of view. Yeah, I think that's it.
Last question for both of you. For Ning, you were previously a big engineer. So what is your motivation to found a startup, and could you share any learning or suggestion for anyone who might want to, have a plan to start their own business? And for Siri as well, what is your suggestion for someone who wants to start a new business?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit, and I think the key for competing with giants is actually that unique data that the giants don't have. It's not that difficult. And if you actually, so companies that we invested, like Grail, and they have genomic data that Google and Facebook haven't had yet. So they're been around only for 3 years, and their valuation is over 1.5 billion. But comparing to only doing algorithm, do you like AlphaGo? You love it, everybody loves it. It's not a unicorn. It was acquired by Google for 500 million. So I think, Google is being successful, not because of search engine algorithm. It's because of the data. So I think data is very, very important here still. Even though, you're having this very top-notch algorithm, you might be better than Google. And then you wanted to find something that Google and Facebook don't have yet. And another thing is, I think for AutoML, it really makes sense for Google to actually develop it? Because it can sell more Google storage, Google Cloud storage. It's really sustainable for them, and also more TPU. So yeah, that's my take. Yeah, my suggestion.
Yeah, totally agree. That's why I say we designed our platform at the very beginning to be able to learn from users' training data from every single model that we have built for our user. So that when you accumulate that data and learning over time, you create a barrier. And that's the data we have that Google doesn't.
Any suggestion for a new entrepreneur?
The story, the reason we started, so I'm just telling our own story. So I believe it could be totally different for others, but I'm more familiar with now. So it's very simple. So in my career and in my partner's career, so we have been going through different applications. For my own, I used AI in cybersecurity for antivirus, spam detection, and then I moved to ads relevance. It's very challenging and a fundamental problem for any search engine. So we invest hugely on that, build technology, build a platform to improve the relevance. And we develop our own methodology to do those things. But then I went to local search. Search engine relevance, there are lots of similarity, but actually the real business and the data we're dealing with is quite different. So it's to be frank, it's more complex than the ads data. So, but the methodology I have learned in my career can be reused here. So so I keep doing this for a couple of years, then I got kind of tired because I'm not learning new things. I'm reusing methodologies that I learned before, and it works pretty well. And I'm re-educating the team, fixing the same, basically repeating what we have done in the previous team, in the new team. Identify similar problem, everyone making the same mistakes, relearn the same lessons. Literally, it's different data, but the mistake is the same. And there are engineering issues, there are algorithm issues, and different approaches that team haven't tried before, and the same mistakes they made. Everyone makes the same mistakes. For example, the simplest mistake we have seen across every single team I worked with is when we built the model. So we don't have strong testing. We didn't have strong testing, let's say, for consistency between the offline training and the production. That makes the model work pretty well, supposed to work pretty well, not actually working well in production. So we keep doing those things, and I'm tired of it. I want a generic solution, build our knowledge into it, so that we can avoid people making the same mistake. So and we believe, because I myself was the kind of customers needing this type of products. Without today's automated technology, we in great need of such products. So I was the customer. I would be the customer if the product was available years ago. So that's the fundamental thing for me, to recognize this opportunity for me to start a startup, because I would be the user. So that's very kind of easy for me. If you are building, of course, if you are building a solution for a different industry, it's different. But unfortunately, because AutoML applies to machine learning, it's the industry I myself was in, so I see that.
Is there anything you want to add?
I'm just saying, so the reason why I became an early stage investor is because
Previously I was trying to start my own company, and then I actually met this group of amazing people, and then I decided to join full time. And when I went back to Stanford and talked to students, and I always say, if you wanted to be an investor, you can do it now. And just recommend me one or two startups that you really like, and then you're an investor, and just add value to that person that you really respect, and you become that person sooner or later. At least you can be around with her or him. So I would say the same thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, and you can do it on the side. You can do it on the side, create something, and make some friends, and see whether you're really passionate about what you are doing. And maybe, getting a corporate job is good for you. Maybe you don't like that kind of always like surviving mode, and maybe you don't like it. So I think you can do it now. Yeah.
All right, that finished my questions. So we have another Q&A session. Feel free to ask any questions to our speakers.
Yes, thanks for giving this talk. It's very interesting. So I kind of have a question. I was a little bit confused with your logic. One is saying is you are kind of more data give you like a higher barrier for other competitors to enter this field. But I think since the system is kind of automatic, why not you kind of using a lot of open data computation side like Cargo or whatever to kind of improve on your kind of the controller? Is that a possibility or is
It's possible to some degree. So there are two things. One is say we can essentially, because we have shared model, we have shared AutoML model. You remember the controller I described? We use the same controller on every data set, on every application. So if I have seen similar applications or similar data sets, or is that more precisely the data set, the new data sets I'm seeing sharing some characteristics with the older data sets I have seen, then I should be able to infer what kind of model structure works better on this data. So that solves the cold start problem. So, and fundamentally this controller is trained by the model I have built and I have evaluated. Think about it, the training data of the controller contains the validation examples and the model I designed, the previous models I designed, and the evaluation results. That's kind of training data for the controller. So this training data can be fabricated from expert designed models, for example. So I have new data set, a public data set, and for example, image classification, and there are many expert designed models to start with. So I don't have to force my controller to start learning the image classification model from nothing. It doesn't have to start from very trivial models. It can start with DenseNet or other complex models. And by reusing those models and evaluating them on the validation set, we can learn which model perform well on which example. So that's the training data I have. I can collect it myself without customers involved. For the Kaggle problem, it's the same thing. I can do this. I can even not only I can use the Kaggle data sets for this purpose, but also use the winning models and directly learn from those models. But unfortunately, lots of winning models, winning solutions in Kaggle use the data or very domain-specific knowledge, which cannot be generalized very well. So, but because we're building a generic platform, we have to make sure for example, the feature engineering we build can be generalized to different applications. And and we have limited, because we don't know which domain the data is from, the application is about, then we have limited ability to introduce additional data. So that's where the limitation lies. So we can do some of it, but not all. So human knowledge actually human knowledge does give, let's say, human scientists some advantage in this area, because I know the application. I can think about other data, maybe data without labels, which I can collect from other sources and find ways to use it in my design, in my solution. But for applications, AutoML cannot do that because it doesn't really understand their domain. It doesn't have the common sense knowledge. I hope I've answered your question.
Any other question?
So I have kind of a two-part question, right? It seems like the most interesting aspects of data that you want to work with in ML, like defaults or sales, even clicks, they're rare. They're rare events. So how does your AutoML handle that?
There are rare events. So typically, so it's a problem not just associated to AutoML. It's associated to, for example, click prediction. If you consider as value classification problem, it's highly unbalanced. That's the nature of the data. So the traditional algorithm dealing with it still have to, find a way to deal with it. So we do use the same method as traditional method. For example, for unbalanced data, we try to crack we try to crack the ratio between different labels and adjust our loss function so that we can produce a correct model. So there are other ways to do it, but this is the primary way that we do it.
Okay.
So basically rebalance the data, but adjust the loss function so that we don't learn a skewed distribution.
As long as you're not changing the fundamental nature of the problem, right?
Right.
Say it was cancer detection and you pushed up the sample to be 20% from 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And actually we made it a parameter, so we automatically learn how much we should push it.
Okay, fair enough. Second part of the question is, now that we want to look at rare events, how do you deal with the non-stationarity of the rare events? Because it's sort of in the background of the time series and everything else.
There are certain transformations that happen, making the problem a little bit easier after certain smoothing function. But most importantly, you can see the process as you can see the problem as how do I say that? I think the right answer to this is we don't.
You don't take care of
Yeah.
it.
So
Just for non-stationary.
So some model take care of it. Some, especially the simple model, so the model ensures that. But some model doesn't. And essentially we leave it to the AutoML controller to figure out what works better on this data set. That's the feedback process. We don't have manual mechanism that force it to be stationary or not. So think about it, because we can take the feedback and adjust. So if one method, one particular approach doesn't work on this data set, based on the validations, based on the metric calculated on the validation set,
Okay.
the chance of you design such model on this data set becomes smaller and smaller over time. That's how you learn it doesn't work.
Fair enough, but you gave an example of sort of sales predictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So changes in behavior of customers
Mhm.
so that they will wait for the sale and change their own behavior.
Mhm.
And your auto ML can take care of that?
So basically, it's a mix of, because I think when you think about this, you think it like a traditional time series data. But we do allow customers to introduce other attributes along with the time series. Those attributes help us explain why those things are changing. So for example, if you, without promotion data, promotion can be provided in many different ways. For example, it can be discounts, it can be numerical attributes, or or you can just use text that describes the kind of promotion you're running. So without this kind of information, when you see like a sudden increase in sales, that will affect your prediction because think about it, I'm just learning the average over a window. Then the average will be shifted just simply because the sales spike. Because you know there's a promotion going on, you can explain it better by consider it the consequences of the promotion instead of the stationary sales trend. So that's where basically machine learning model help you separate those things out.
It's fine.
It's similar to when you do it manually using traditional approach, you introduce holidays, for example, to help you explain the changes in the sales. It's the same thing. It's just in this case, holiday is relatively simple for human to define, but the impact of promotions and other factors or other product sales is a lot harder for human to define it clearly. That's why you rely on the model to learn the pattern automatically.
So Walmart has different competitions for Christmas sales, for weather changes, for seasonal
No,
changes,
that's
and
fine.
sales changes.
That's like kind of really assuming this is exogenous. But what I'm saying is the difficulty for an auto ML is that you get to start to evaluate systems that being the observer participant in changes the behavior, and then AutoML has to adapt to that. Otherwise, it's certainly not as good as anyone else, or perhaps not as good as a human person would see this, right? Even ad targeting, the more you target people, people avoid it. So, the examples keep going on, and then you have a non-stationary environment, or your convergence criteria may not even work.
So essentially, you have to see that behavior enough times in your training data for the model to learn it.
Well, if it's not stationary, you won't see it.
It's
we're talking rare events.
rare events, certainly no. There are limitations on what you can learn.
Yeah, I think it's a data sufficiency question, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a data sufficiency question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when-
Fundamentally, yes. So basically, we can only learn what your data reflects.
We can have more in-depth discussion after the event. I would say that's the end of today's episode. Ning, thank you very much for taking your precious time to share insights in technology, AI, and investment. And thank you very much for coming tonight. This is the 5th episode of DTalk. And if you want to know more about the future events, you can follow the hashtag DTalk on the Twitter, and also the Think Global. We are a global AI publication, Think. By the end, I will always introduce myself. My name is Tony, and I am a Silicon Valley-based tech reporter, reporting any stories relating to AI technologies. So that's it. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.